So in a moment, we're going to have actually an improvised thing. I'm going to do a playful interview with a man named Henri. And that's going to be about 5 minutes. And he has been in lots of different spheres in terms of environmental and social goodness in the world. And then we're going to shift to what you're waiting for, which is the special people that you've come here to support. This is a really loving form of stand-up comedy, and we'll talk a bit more about the rules on how to support them. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and go to speaker view, if you have it at the top left. So speaker view, hopefully I'll be huge. And Chris, if you could also spotlight the fabulous Henri, please. Okay, so Henri, thank you so much for being here. You are awesome. Should we clink glasses?
Thank you for inviting me.
You're very welcome. Should we clink glasses from across the countries there? Okay. Thank you very much. Lovely. We worked together before. We did a pilot called Giggling with the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. And you gave me your bio to share with people, a one-line bio. And I'm going to read this because I don't normally say these words, and particularly not together. So I'm going to read it. You are a geographer working on geospatial data standardization in Myanmar.
Oh, that's what I say.
Let's break that down for a second. Geospatial data and standardization. Why should we as citizens of the world be really excited that you're doing that?
Oh, you should be.
Tell us about that.
Except that geospatial data is not funny. It's very useful. It's the process by which countries try to harmonize and standardize their data related to spatial patterns, and there are certain softwares using that. And by having a standardized governance of data, you are able to extract much richer information that is much more useful for everybody, not only for governments, but also from private actors, all kinds of various sectors that may need these data, people, in Myanmar, civil society. So it's quite useful. It's very useful.
Can you give us an example of and I just want to explain to everybody. So unlike the people that you may have come here to see, and we'll get to them in a moment, they've been crafting what they've been saying. They're going to say for 6 weeks. Henri and I are just chatting. We're going to chat for 5 minutes. There's no expectation that either of us are going to be funny during this portion. We're just seeing what comes out. So I just wanted to differentiate between the two sections of the show. And Henri is an incredibly smart and funny, naturally funny guy. So
thank you.
Can you give me a concrete example of how is that data used to bring goodness to the world, and why it would be better if it was harmonized?
Well, by harmonizing it, you are in a very uncomfortable situation where you have to put actors that have conflicting interests together around the table.
Okay.
So that's the kind of momentum and leverage you're trying to create. And this environment, this space where you have civil society, for example, resisting the government of Myanmar. I mean, I'm talking pre-coup, and now with the military coup, it's a totally different situation. But still back then, I mean, 2 months ago, a lot of civil society were resisting the government.
Yeah.
So when you explain the need to have these data being standardized and harmonized, these actors have to sit around the table and have to discuss and agree. So you're creating an environment for that to happen, which in itself is already very beneficial, beyond all the benefits you get out of having good data, good quality data, and access to that data.
Okay. We're going to park the fact that you're in Myanmar for a second, because they've been in the news recently. We're going to ask you about that. In your link, so we're LinkedIn buddies, and you speak 6 languages. What's your favorite?
My native language, French, of course.
French. Okay, so you're Swiss, so of course you speak French and English and German. No Italian?
I can understand, but I don't speak it now. But I can
Okay.
understand. Yeah, definitely, it's a Latin language, so for us, it's quite easy to understand. But I can't speak it now.
Okay. And you speak Arabic and Hebrew and Spanish as well.
Arabic and Hebrew, it's been a long time. I must say it's quite rotten, but I can also understand and make myself understood. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite phrase in Arabic that you could share with us?
Salamu alaikum, rahmatullah. Kul shi khair. The regular. I mean, Arabic is very rich in ice-breaking sentences. And this is what makes it exciting. So these sentences are just endless and very useful.
So what's a variation on salam alaikum that would be nice for us who want to add one more rich variation onto a welcoming thing in Arabic? Because we have a bunch of...
Well, the key sentence, I mean, the key small phrase in Arabic that opens doors, shows warmth and welcoming is ahlan wa sahlan. Ahlan wa sahlan means whatever the situation between you and me, whether we are friends or not, you are welcome in my place. And this reflects a lot the hospitality of the Middle East and the Arab world, where there is no question asked. You are always welcome at my place. And there is a place for you in my house. My house is your house. This is basically what ahlan wa sahlan means. So, yeah.
Do you bring that idea back to the geospatial harmonization as like a starter for agreeing where the boundaries actually are and stuff?
Absolutely, yes.
You were also in Mongolia. What on earth were you doing in Mongolia?
Because it's my sort of area of expertise is to look at how people are making a living in resource scarce areas. So I mostly work in deserts and high altitude mountains, not anymore since I'm in Myanmar, obviously, but I find it quite fascinating that in 2021, people make a living of basically of sunshine. Sunshine creates photosynthesis in deserts. Animals eat plants that are not edible for humans and transform this into meat and milk. And this allows people to live at 4,000 meters altitude in the Hindu Kush or in the middle of the Gobi Desert. And I find that fascinating. I find that just amazing that this is probably the closest example to living in a sustainable development format. You are not harming the environment. I mean, as long as you do it properly. Of course, there are overgrazing issues and all that, but you are not harming the environment and you are making a living, you are surviving on sunshine. So it's just beautiful, isn't it?
That is really beautiful. I think because of the COVID pandemic, a lot of particularly self-employed people feel like we're in a desert right now. Are there any sort of patterns that might transfer tips for people when you've looked at that subsistence of people living on the edge and thriving? Is there anything that sort of might help us in kind of all of a sudden projects might have dried up and things like that? Is there anything that might help us be resilient? Ooh, are you there? Haha. Is this mine or uh-oh?
I think we've lost Henri.
Oh no. Oh dear. Hopefully we'll get Henri back. Oh dear. I'm just so glad we saw Henri because as he said, he's in Myanmar. And there was a chance that he would have to emergency evacuate or that the government would cut the internet. So it was just really pleasing that he could actually join us. Let's see. I think we should go on with the show and we just hope that we get him back possibly at a later time. Now, we have an interesting situation in that Henri is working off of his laptop battery and that might die very soon. So Chris, can you spotlight me and Henri one more time? I just want to ask Henri 3 questions. Really well done, Lee. So just before your laptop dies, one, welcome back. We're glad you're safe. You helped to write sort of behind the scenes the most recent SDG report, Sustainable Development Goals. Is that fair
Right.
to say?
Yeah.
So there's 17 development goals. Which is your favorite?
Oh, that's a tough one. You see, what we are highlighting in this report, it's not one of our findings, but it's what comes out from the report, and what we put to the force is that SDGs are interconnected. Whatever you activate on one SDG will activate all kinds of trade-offs and synergies on other SDGs. My field being environmental and ecosystem services and this sort of connection to the environment, my favorite SDG is 15. Am I making a mistake? Is that the 15 one? I think so.
What is that?
I don't have the list of SDGs number with me anymore. Right. But I remember 15 is that ticks most of the boxes of my work. Otherwise, it's 13, which should be climate change, unless I'm mistaken.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. What is in one sentence, what's something that you hope for the world right now that will go towards helping us in the environmental work that you're doing? One sentence. Very cruel question.
One sentence is take people out of poverty, but nah, it's already more than a sentence. Sorry.
Fair enough.
I think poverty and well-being and friendship will solve it. If people are happy, if people can make a living, all the rest will follow. The question is, what do you have to activate for that to happen? Targeting poverty itself is maybe not the solution. Maybe you should target access to energy. And with access to energy, you will reduce poverty, or the other way around, who knows?
Beautiful. And given where you are, is there anything that all of us can do to help you or your work at the moment in Myanmar?
Yes, you should support Myanmar people. Myanmar people are absolutely amazing, absolutely strong. They are incredibly courageous. I don't think anyone of our youth, at least in my country, will stand up with so much peace and hope as the Myanmar people do. What they're doing is incredible, and we should support them.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Round of applause for Henri. Thank you so much.
Thank you.